30 by 30. We
Yes.
have been hearing about this recently. It is Singapore's effort to build up agri-food industry capability to produce 30% of our nutritional needs locally and sustainably by the year 2030. It also features in the Singapore Green Plan 2030 as well to build a more resilient food future. We know that we rely on many other countries for our foodstuffs. Our next guest is doing something that is directly going to benefit the 30 by 30 plan in building up industrial strength and size capacity when it comes to rooftop farming. Let's go now to Peter Barber, the co-owner and CEO of ComCrop Rooftop Farming, to help meet the Singapore 30 by 30 agri-food goals. Peter, welcome to the show. Great to have you with us here on Money FM.
Oh, great to talk to you guys. How are you?
Brilliant. And I'll just jump in, Peter. I've heard a lot of great things about your project this week. Can't wait to hear more. I'm a big supporter, but I want to shout out wonderful cameras you've set up. If anybody has access to their phone and can get on Facebook Live, please do it now, because what Peter is showing is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's on the Money FM Facebook page. Peter, you are in one of your greenhouses right now, built in Singapore, hiring and employing Singaporeans, growing food for Singapore. Give us the story of ComCrop.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So ComCrop was Singapore's first rooftop farming company. It actually started as a community project, which is where the name ComCrop comes from, community crop. So it's shortened down to that. So it was originally a rooftop farming project that was piloted on the Scape building, which is a sort of a sandbox entrepreneurial building in the middle of the Singapore shopping district at Orchard Road. And through the work that we did there of growing hydroponic vegetables, we were able to eventually, over a couple of years, obtain a farming license from what is now the Singapore Food Agency. And that also allowed us to work with the different government agencies, including the URA and others, in order to make rooftop farming an accessible change of use for rooftop buildings. So more than just planting trees or plants or flowers to beautify or cool down buildings, farming was included in that. So if you're a small restaurant or, a small business wanting to grow for yourself, you could do that. But what that also allowed us to do was then scale up to do industrial size rooftop farming on buildings here in Singapore. So
that's
what we
the
then
point
did,
I wanted to jump in on, Peter, because hydroponic farming is nothing new, of course. I saw my first hydroponic farms in Singapore, I think in the early 2000s, out in Lim Chu Kang. And when I was discussing this with Glenn, he was saying, no, these guys, different scale, different level, whole new playing field. It's on an industrial level. So give us an idea of the size, the scale, and how you're achieving this.
Yeah, so exactly, it's all about scale. So we worked with JTC to be able to take the rooftop car park of what is a food production building in Woodlands, which gives us over 3,000 square meters of controlled environment space that we've built our greenhouses. So
that's basically for those friends, watching on Facebook Live. That's 5 of the type of greenhouses that you're standing in front of now, right?
That's right. So we've evolved this over the years. Our very first hydroponic systems were just open air A-frame systems that we were growing in Orchard Road, and they worked quite well. But they also taught us a lot about the type of things that we would have to deal with growing in an urban environment. And one of the basic one is control of weather and the environment affecting the plants, because you want to control how much sunlight they're receiving and how much water they're receiving. So if they're getting rained on and blown around, that can affect things. And then, of course, with no protection, you've got insects coming in, and everything that we grow is without pesticides, so we don't spray any chemicals or anything to kill or scare anything away. So we just want to make sure that we're protecting the plants and growing them in a healthy way. By building these controlled environment greenhouses, we can keep the pests out, and then we can also control how much sunlight and how much irrigation we're supplying to the plants. And it's all done automatically through these growing channels here that kind of work on like a little bit of a conveyor belt system. They're what are called mobile gutter systems, which means that as the plants grow, they slowly move down the greenhouse. They're kind of like, it's like a travelator at the airport. So instead of watching your bags go from one end of the airport to the other, the plants go from one end of the greenhouse and then grow up. So they start off life. Let me just show you something. They start off life very small. So we'll start off with these little tiny seedlings, and then we break them off and then put them into these growing systems to let them have their final few weeks of life as they grow up. It's a little bit going from, kindergarten to primary school to high school. This is kind of how it works for plants. And
then graduation day comes, right? Eventually.
and then graduation day comes, and then there's some of the lettuce that we're growing, and that one I've actually harvested a little bit early. That one's probably got another week or so to go until it gets the size. Some other
Peter's showing us on Facebook Live. Those of you who are on the radio, he's showing us samples of the smaller plants and then the larger full-grown
and
plants.
Please get onto Facebook Live if you can, because it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so what we try to do, and this is not only is the way we've set this up unique. So actually, I should explain a little bit more about the greenhouses. What we're doing is different from what you would normally see in a typical greenhouse on a typical farm. I hear a lot this comment about, what is traditional farming, and to me, there's no such thing. Traditional farming is the best use of the available technology at the time to grow food as well as we can, and whether that be in volume nutrition or whatever we're trying to do. So what we've taken is very well built and designed controlled environment greenhouses, but then what we've done is added in the type of automation technology that you would see in a vertical indoor farm. So things like the mobile gutter systems. We actually use LED lighting to complement or supplement daylight. So, we're out in the Singapore sunlight, which is great. So we get free sunlight to grow the vegetables every day, which is the healthiest way to do it. But if we find ourselves in a situation where, like I think you said earlier, there's rain coming, right? So today there might be a bit of rain, there might be a little bit of dark clouds, which will reduce the amount of sunlight we'll get today. Our weather system monitors that and says, okay, we probably need 2 more hours of sunlight, so it'll turn on the lights for 2 hours to compensate for that tomorrow morning. So this is how we keep the consistency. Which is also why, some people ask us, how come we don't do multiple levels, or how come we don't do funny shapes? And it's all about making sure that everything is consistent, everything gets an even amount of light, an equal amount of nutrients, so that when the plants are harvested, they all come out roughly the same size when they go to the supermarket. Because as open to, fresh and organic and pesticide-free everybody says there are, but the reason why farming, we're using those type of things for years, is to try to make everything look pristine and clean. And it's really, really difficult to do it without those things to help.
Yes. Peter, how long does it take from the shoot to the grown plant that's being harvested and sold in locally in stores here? How long does it take?
Well, it depends on the variety. For example, the basil that we grow, that takes about 4 weeks from seed until it goes to the supermarket. And then in the case of the lettuce and the chicin, that's about 6 weeks. I don't know whether you can see that there.
So relatively quickly.
Sorry?
Relatively quickly, and your supply chain is short, so it's going to be fresh. When it gets to fair price, it's going to be fresh,
that's right? Oh, that's right. Yeah. So currently we sell through fair price finer stores, and it gets to the stores the same day that it's harvested. So we'll harvest in the morning and it's there by the afternoon. So it's actually really, really fresh. And we also sell online via Redmart as well. So you can actually find all our different varieties. We've got herbs like basil, mint, and rosemary. And then we also have the Asian greens like the chicin and stuff like that, all available on Redmart and Fair Price. And we're in the price range of, $3 to $4 for leafy greens. Some herbs get up to about $8 for the bigger packs. But these packs are really, really nice because what we actually do, and maybe I'll open it up to see you, is that what we encourage people to do is not put them in the fridge, which might sound like a strange thing. You don't put your veggies in the fridge. Certainly not in the case of the basil, because we actually harvest live plants. So the plants are still with their roots on when we ship them to you. And there's a reason for that, and that's because they're still alive. There's still some moisture in the roots, which is keeping them alive as they get home to you. And then what you do is you take that, and then you put that in a vase in your kitchen, and that's going to last a week or so, rather than putting in the fridge, and then a few days later it starts to go brown or it's not nice anymore. And so it's a nice little trick, but it's intentional because it keeps things fresh and much longer. Yeah.
Nice.
This is extraordinary.
I know,
this
right?
Is extraordinary.
I told you.
And just so I know, because I'm going to be buying these today, is the brand name ComCrop? Is that the name you use that I'm looking for? If we go to Lazada or Fair Price or whatever?
So our company name's ComCrop, and you'll see this label. Oops, there we go. Rooftop rooftop farming produce. The other thing I'd ask you to look out for, so even if you can't find ComCrop's vegetables, so please choose us first, but if you can't find us, at least pick someone else with this logo, because what that means is it's being grown in Singapore, and it's being grown under the strict supervision of the Singapore Food Agency, who have been a fantastic support to this part of the industry, because obviously they're helping us grow our businesses so that we can provide into the offtake for Singapore. Because I'm not sure whether a lot of your viewers know, but Singapore currently imports over 90% of the food that we eat here.
And it's not sustainable.
Well, it's not sustainable. I mean, we have a large diverse supply chain from different countries all over the world, which in normal times, that works fine, because if one country has a problem, we can get the same things from somebody else. But what COVID did is it shut everybody down. And then all of a sudden we realized 10% isn't going to cut it. So that's where this 30 by 30 initiative came from, where the current drive is to make sure that between the local producers, whether it be vegetable producers like us, eggs, and also fish producers, can supply up to 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. So we've got about 8 years left to do that. We're certainly doing our part. We've gone in the last few years. When I first took over the company, we were doing about 1 ton a year. Over the next year or so, we got up to 3 tons. We're now at 20. And by the end of this year, we'll be 200 tons a year out of this site because of the expansion and automation.
Wow. 200 tons of food coming out of that, just that one place in the Woodlands?
Yeah, so there's over 3,000 packets of leafy greens will be hitting fair price supermarkets by the end of September. So that'll be every single day, 3,000 packs a day. So please, guys, you've got to help us to support
listeners, viewers, buy this stuff, will you? I mean, support Singapore growing its own food, for goodness sake, right?
I mean, Peter, I got so many questions. I'll try and be quick, rapid fire. I mean, listening to you talk about irrigation. So you're saving water, that's one. There's a transport saving as well. I don't know if you can measure this scientifically, but do you have any idea of the kind of carbon footprint you're saving? Because it's just wonderful, the lack of carbon emissions that you're emitting to get your food from the soil to the supermarket shelf must be extraordinary. Do you have any idea what it is?
Yeah, well, so there's 90% figure is interesting, because we actually use 90% less water and 90% less nutrients than what a soil-based farm would do. Because once you irrigate something in soil, it's gone. The water's gone down to the water table, and there it goes. In the case of hydroponic, it's constantly being recycled. So we don't have to replace it, we top it up. We filter our water, we treat it, and then we all add in the nutrients, then goes around again. And then on the power side of things, we actually use solar obviously we're using natural solar, which is sunlight, to grow the vegetables, but we also capture solar so that we can run our pumps and our fans and things like that. So not only are we aiming to be carbon neutral, we actually want to be in a situation when we're generating more of everything than we use. So obviously we're generating food. We capture some rainwater to top up our tanks. So we have the option of either rainwater capture or city water, which is then treated, and also we're capturing the solar panels as well. So our goal is to capture actually more solar than what we use here, and that's a big differentiation. When we were thinking about expanding our capability, we were also thinking about, do we do indoor vertical farms and things like that, which we eventually will do. We will have other sites that do that. But currently, right now, the issue that we face with indoor vertical farms is the expense to run them, because you've got to run the LED lighting at least 18 hours a day, and if it's indoor, it means running basically air conditioning 24 hours a day, and they're all very power-consuming devices. And so we decided to go this route, because what we do is we get the best economies of scale, not only in producing vegetables, but also economically as well. Because there's no point us growing 200 tons of vegetable a year if it's too expensive for people to buy. So we're really trying to make sure that we are on price parity to what's coming in from Malaysia, so that when Singapore consumers get to the supermarket, they're not making a choice about, I want to support Singapore, but I've got to pay more money. They can support Singapore locally produced produce, but be paying the same money and feeding their family a better quality, a higher nutritional vegetable.
Yeah, we're talking to Peter Barber, the co-owner and CEO of ComCrop, on target to produce over 220 tons of green leafy vegetables and herbs and things this year alone. Ian Chan, one of our regular viewers on Facebook Live, is saying, excellent work, Peter. Any plans to expand this island-wide? This, just to be clear, this is not something that would go on HDB rooftops, right? You need a real structure that is going to be strong enough for this. So given that, where would your next targets be for building more greenhouses?
Yeah, so we work with JTC because obviously the buildings are industrial scale buildings that are able to take the weight of these big greenhouses and obviously all the water tanks and things like that. So as much as we'd love to do HDB sites, and I think they're important for community gardens and things like that, they don't have the scale or the infrastructure to be able to hold industrial scale production. So yes, we definitely want to expand this out in Singapore. We want to work closely with companies that would then offtake vegetables. So in this case, everything that we produce, well, not everything, but most of what we produce in this farm goes to fair price. As we build other farms, we can then start supplying to the other supermarkets. And ideally, we should be building rooftop farms either on top of their buildings or right next to their buildings, because the next area where we save money, where we can use that money to employ Singaporeans, is by not wasting money on logistics and trucks and distribution, things like that. Ideally, we want to be growing right above where it's going to be sent.
Wonderful. I mean, this is by far the most positive, uplifting story I've heard all day.
Great.
We've had our guests previously talk about how California can't grow enough fruit and vegetables. Half of the east side of England is scorched at the moment. Western Europe is on fire. Vineyards are ruined. Crops are ruined. And here you've got this wonderful initiative. It's actually made my day, Peter, your story. It's a brilliant story. So let's just jump ahead. 2030, 30 by 30, best case scenario. Where do you see Singapore being in 2030?
Oh, I think we can definitely hit this target. If the other farm producers also are able to get things up and running like we are doing, then I think accumulatively we'll be able to hit that target. But my goal is much higher than that. I think Singapore needs to think of itself a little bit like Holland. It needs to be think like the Netherlands, where you become a net food producer where we can actually export. I think if we can get to the point where we can be so cost effective about what we're doing here that not only can we provide to our own community, that we can also export to our regional partners, I think that will prove that we've actually achieved something. And then we can go to California in the UK and help those guys too, if that's what we need to do. and I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah,
I believe it, Peter. I mean, very briefly, one of the reasons I came back to Singapore was when I was living in Australia for a while. And when I saw a delegation from Australia go to Singapore to learn how to manage their water supply, I thought, it's all over. It's all over. Australia's got the kind of natural resources that Singapore can only dream of.
Exactly.
And they've gone to Singapore and I agree with Peter. In years to come, people will be coming to us to see how to manage our vegetable supply. Wonderful.
The company is ComCrop. Peter Barber is the co-owner and CEO. Those of you out in TV land or on the radio watching or listening, Fair Price Finest is where you can buy these. They're on par with the cost of any other vegetables. And Redmart as well online. Those of you who are out there who've got pockets, who are investors, who have spaces, industrial spaces where this could happen, contact Peter. These are the kinds of stories that Singapore needs to meet its own food needs. And like you say, Peter, hopefully someday to be a net exporter. Wouldn't that be amazing? Thanks for your time today, Peter.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
I'm coming down soon. I want to see this miracle. I'm very excited. I want to see this miracle.
I'm saving it for you.
Thanks, mate. Brilliant story.
Peter, thanks very much. All the best to you. And we'll check in with you again in a couple of months' time and see how it's going.
That'd be great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's the weekend. Time to play with MoneyFM 89.3.
Welcome back to Saturday mornings here on Money FM. Glenn Van Zutphen and Neil Humphreys with you for another 50 minutes or so. And if you missed our last segment with Peter Barber,
it was great.
ComCrop. It was unbelievable. I hope you get on our podcast and listen to him. But we are getting so many comments.
We are.
More comments on this than anything else we've had today.
Which is great because it's such an uplifting story. We've got Eric Trier, a politician, coming up next. And I'm sure this is such a positive story for Singapore. I know it sounds like I'm gushing, but these are the kind of stories that do give you a little bit of hope that we can do the 30 by 30, which seems such a monumental task, right?
From where we are right now,
right?
absolutely.
To feed our own population. But if you can go back, what Glenn said, go back later on Facebook Live. You can watch it. Just have a look at the scale and size of his greenhouse setup in Woodlands.
And that's one of five that he has right now.
Right, which will answer some of the questions that we'll get to. I know someone said about HDB.
With limited land,
Stanley said, does Peter need more rooftops? Just look at the rooftops of all the HDB car parks. Many are left idle. I agree, Stanley, completely. I know there are plans in some areas to do kind of pop-up farms. But again, the scale that he's building, it's not big enough.
He really needs, ideally, he needs the roof of those JTC warehouses, right? And also with the ramps that you can drive the big lorries up, right? So that they can get supplies in and out and get the fresh produce out. So that's the ideal that he's going for. He did mention he might be able to do some of it on some of the HDB car parks, but a lot of those car parks are used as well, so they have to be sensitive to that for people to park their cars.
But Art Lou's point, we'll definitely look out for locally produced veg next time we are in the supermarket, and that's the key, Art, because this is one of those things when people say, "Why do you eat less meat?" and there's no losing here. It's a win-win feel. If he can make his prices competitive, which he says he is, you can buy this tasty, fresh, healthy vegetables and know you're actually doing something positive for the planet by doing nothing else than just buying that veg. Your carbon footprint will shrink in an instant if you buy that veg. It's a win-win, Art. It's a win-win. Ian Chan, will it be made available to supply in the mom and pop stores to be sold in the wet market? I'm sure it will in time.
Yeah, in time. But here's the thing. He needs the scale, right? He needs the large grocery stores, the chains, to take this up, right? Like Fair Price Finest is doing right now. And of course, many of those mom and pops, they're getting the stuff from China, and the price is dirt cheap, right? Or some of it's coming from Malaysia. Now his prices are very much in line with market pricing, but I would say probably the mom and pops are slightly, that's not his target market right now, because as he said the word scale a number of times, right? He needs, to make this work as a business, you need big suppliers buying lots of it, and the rest of us buying it as well as consumers. So let's see.
And you do get what you pay for. I mean, Joanne Flynn's point, and fresher is often better nutritionally. Absolutely. So if I'm going to pay a couple of cents more, okay, not everyone's in that position. But if I'm buying my vegetables in Fair Price anyway, and I happen to get quite a bit from Red Mart, that's our go-to place. We get our deliveries from Red Mart. Of course I'm going to get from him. Of course I'm going to get from him, because whatever I'm losing in the fact that it's cheaper from Malaysia, I'm gaining on the fact that there's no transport costs. It's grown on site.
It's fresh.
It's cheap and it's fresh.
Yeah. LL10 with limited land, agriculture will need to go high rise. Absolutely.
Yep.
Peter Armstrong, very humble kid from country Australia, conquering the world. I guess you must be a friend or a relative, right, Peter? Yeah, I'm guessing anyway.
But we agree.
You're right.
I agree. Glenda Sargent, wonderful from Australia. Yes, it is. It's a wonderful story that he's brought here. Joanne Flynn adds fortuitously, the rains have arrived up north. Yes, apparently it is coming down.
It's bucketing everywhere, especially the west part of the island, all the way through the center and north part. East Coast and Changi Airport look like about the only places that aren't getting wet right now. So,
and if you are heading to the Causeway, try to wait, because twice it's almost an hour and it is hammering down on the Tuas Causeway right now.
Actually, but Woodlands looks like it's getting wet too. So
we're both getting it. Yeah.
Stanley C. Wow, moonshot thinking, talking about Peter Barber and ComCrop. I like it. Let the whole Singapore work on it. Why aren't governments step in to sponsor? He does have government input and support
through JTC, right?
Through JTC and others. He's always looking for more help and also ways to make it easier to streamline innovation, because he is constantly innovating as well. One of the stories he was telling me offline was, he originally they built their own greenhouse, and then he met some Dutch guys that were doing greenhouses in Malaysia, and they have a style of greenhouse that was better, more efficient, more appropriate. And so he partnered with them. So now he's using the Dutch style or brand of greenhouse. So he's constantly innovating.
Well, this is the thing, Glenn. What staggers me sometimes is this is the one example when it's really not rocket science. If you can invest, if I'm a wealthy man, as Bill Gates is doing, as Temasek is doing, I'm investing in sustainable technology, sustainable foods all day long. I am literally betting on planet survival, right? So you've got to invest in plant-based foods. You've got to invest in homegrown foods. And I said to you off air, I hope if this guy becomes spectacularly rich, Peter, I would not begrudge him a cent, because it's such a positive and necessary economic and social contribution. Being serious for a moment, don't underestimate the social impact. This idea that we're only, what is the famous phrase? We're only 4 meals away from revolution, or 4 missed meals away, whatever the figure is.
Yeah.
COVID showed us, and Ukraine actually, COVID and Ukraine showed us the priceless importance of food security. We are only a couple of missed meals away.
And supply chains, right?
And supply chains from anarchy, from rioting, blah, blah, blah. Again, Woodstock 99 is a literal example of that. But on a more serious note, he's doing that. He's helping to secure Singapore's food security. And honestly, Glenn, it's mind-blowing to think that we could become a food positive nation, a surplus where we can sell our food. Honestly, my mind is blown. Moonshot is a great example, great analogy. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Let's see. Somebody just asked if he needs more rooftop. He does need more rooftop space. Yes, he is constantly looking for these other areas to move into. Like Jurong, I think, is his next target because he wants to get closer to some of the food suppliers like Lazada, like Red Mart, like those guys, and have a place right there. So he can further reduce the time that it takes to go from greenhouse to the food supplier. The other thing he mentioned too is all of these, like his current place in Woodlands, it's across the street from an HDB estate. So any Singaporeans who want a job, working with their hands, growing things, all they got to do is walk across the street. They don't even have to take a bus, and it's, good jobs for Singaporeans, creating food in Singapore by a Singapore company for Singapore's food security. I mean, hello, does it get any better than that? I can't think of how.
Yeah, and my secondary school knowledge of photosynthesis tells me that I would much rather be across the road from an industrial size planting complex that is sucking all of the CO2 out of the air and giving me lovely fresh oxygen. I would love to be across the road, wouldn't you?
There you
from
go.
An industrial sized plant factory, basically a plant
not that
factory.
We're excited about it or anything.
No, honestly, this has made my day. A little positivity goes a long way.
It's great. And he was very I think very gracious in saying it doesn't matter whose local vegetables you buy, whose aquaponics or hydroponic vegetables you buy local, support local growers, support people that are trying to make this industry happen for Singapore. And he is doing it at a scale though that is just ComCrop is just doing it an amazing way.
Well, as I say, as I'm constantly phoning my mother and mother-in-law every day as their temperatures surpass Singapore's, which is insane
in the UK,
unthinkable in the UK. Well, they're going to hit about 34, 35 today in London.
Unreal.
My sister is about to go to Greece, I think, where the temperature will be lower than it is in the one she's leaving behind. She's going to Greece.
It's rare that you go to Greece for cooler temperatures in the summertime.
So this is where we're at in the UK and in Europe and in California and elsewhere and Australia. I've got nothing but positives about this. There is no negative to this story. How often do you get a story on our show where there's always a downside, a certain cynicism, maybe? Nothing. With this one, there's only upside. There is only upside.
Hey, we got another upside story coming up right now.